the great enduring leaders of excellence, innovation, culture, business, and digital transformations, the ones who succeed not over the short term, but over the long term, not just by doing a few projects, successful projects here and there, but by building a culture of excellence and innovation that creates exponential leaders and value for the organization and its clients. Now, let's get right into it. Let me share my presentation with you. Coming up here, you should be able to see that momentarily. And here we are. So enterprise architecture, mechanisms, and culture, how great enduring organizations scale people, technology, and value. There is a lot to be said right there on that title, because it requires a sound enterprise architecture, but also requires mechanisms that translate the principles of innovation into action that creates value, and behaviors that will build a culture that makes these improvements and innovations sustainable, and that is critical. Now, the lessons that I'm going to share with you are not my own ideas. This is based on empirical evidence of working with departments and entire organizations on accelerating excellence, innovation, and transformations for value creation. And it's not to say that every one of these organizations are great enduring organization. This is just a sample of the many that we collaborate with. But it is to say that we have learned what works and what doesn't work with these organizations over time. And we try to understand what works and why it works, and then we scale that. And what I'm going to share with you is an empirical approach on these organizations and how they were able to successfully complete these transformation journeys, where you have seen throughout this conference and many other conferences that we have hosted in the past, that most of the transformations that involve a level of technology, and even without technology, most of them will fail to deliver on their outcomes, on the desired outcomes. More, you hear the numbers anywhere between 70 and 80% of the transformations do not meet their objectives, although there's a lot of excitement early on. So to have that success and sustainable success, we must understand culture. So let's start with some very basic, foundational, and fundamental aspects of these organizations that we must understand. So first of all, what is culture? At the simplest level, culture is simply the habits and behaviors of individuals and teams in the organization. So we must understand that. The question that follows is, okay, if I'm on a transformation that is going to impact my culture, what type of culture do I want to create? Cultures always exist. They are either inherent in the organization or they may be intentionally shaped. Unfortunately, most organizations are not very good at intentionally shaping their culture, and the cultures just evolve over time. But great enduring organizations know how important culture is, and they intentionally work on shaping their cultures. But what type of culture do you want is a very important question, because you want to go from your current behaviors to a new set of behaviors, and you have to be careful about what behaviors you're going to choose. I will posit that what's common across great and enduring organizations is that the definition of a good culture is tightly connected with value creation behaviors. So good cultures, in their definition, are connected with not just any kind of behavior, but value creation behaviors. So keep this in mind as we go down this transformation journey together. Very well. So if we have this recipe for building a culture, why is that it's so hard to transform a culture? Well, it is hard because cultures, they are just like us as individuals. Collectively, cultures resist what they most need to change. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to transform. You just keep doing what you're doing before. So if you want to transform, inevitably, you're going to be going against something that is inherent in the existing culture, and that existing culture is going to resist that change. Remember, you must be empathetic to culture because organizations are just like people. They are not wired for change. They are wired for safety and predictability. So change and transformation is a very unnatural, almost painful process that most people and organizations want to avoid. But, for a rewarding journey and to achieve the results that cannot be achieved with the current setting, we must transform if that's the case. And I think what we have seen here, certainly throughout the pandemic, is that the need for transformation for organizations and professionals has accelerated tremendously because of external forces. But just keep in mind that there's nothing natural about change and transformation. We inherently resist change and transformation. So understanding that is very important because we develop a greater empathy for culture, which we must have. Now, the other problem that happens is that most organizations and leaders do not have a full understanding on how you're going to transform the culture. And that's because they miss the important components. I like to use this analogy of a Jenga here because, we all have a culture that's kind of pieced together over time that resembles a Jenga. But if there is one piece missing there that's critical for the entire balance of the structure will fall apart. And unfortunately, if you look at the post-mortem of the failed transformations, what you see is a lot of these very basic components are just missing. They are not addressed as part of the transformation. So I want to make sure we have a clear view of what great enduring organizations go through when they're doing this transformation. They start with a very clear purpose on what we want to be, what we want to achieve, what do we want to transform into, what are the set of behaviors that I need that are aligned with that purpose. What are the current behaviors, the from behaviors, if you will? What are the true behaviors that we want to achieve? But to decide on that, you need to have a clear purpose, and you need to have a common purpose with the leaders in your organization, that you're aligned on that purpose with the leaders first and then with the entire organization. But purpose is not enough. You must also have a strong set of core values and beliefs that are associated with that purpose. If those core values and beliefs are not connected with that purpose, your journey will falter. So you must develop or enhance or modify your values and beliefs to align with that purpose. This is a very important component. But that's not enough, because with change and transformation, there's a negative reaction in the organization, and the moods and feelings in every organization tend already to be at the neutral to negative side. And if you start imposing some level of change and transformation in the organization, the moods and feelings are going to go towards the negative very, very fast. So you must have a concerted, intentional effort on lifting the moods and feelings in the organization with the purpose, values, and beliefs that you have set. But that's not enough, because even if you have done all of that, you must develop mindsets in the organization, widely developed mindsets in the organization that support the purpose, the values, the moods and feelings that you're instituting. So if, for example, if you want to be more innovative, you must have a mindset of innovation. So you need to understand what that mindset means, what it represents, which is now the next level, which is what are the principles, in this case of innovation, to exemplify, associated with those mindsets. And the real principles, not the ones that you read in books or surveys. Principles that are based on empirical evidence that they work. And you find that from real practitioners. Now, those principles of innovation to exemplify may have definitions of what innovation is. What are the different levels of innovation? What are the different types of innovation that we can do in a business, and how and those principles are critical for innovation to flourish in the organization. But then that's not enough either, because if you do not have clear mechanisms in the organization that translate the principles of innovation into actions that create value, and that's very important, remember, you're trying to build a value creation, behaviors, and culture. So you must have the principles of innovation and then clear mechanisms accessible to all in the organization on how you translate those principles into actions that create value. So innovation in that case and value creation are inextricably linked. And then if you have those actions, those value creation actions, they become now observed behaviors that others can follow. Remember this, people's minds are not changed through argument. They are changed through the observation of behaviors. So you must create examples of the behaviors that you want to have in your new culture. And it is through the consistent action and purposeful, intentional action on building value creation behaviors that you're going to showcase to the organization what those behaviors are that are building our new culture. Now, listen, just explaining this is a bit exhausting, let alone executing on all of this. But most organizations and leadership teams, they skip some of these basic steps. And then they wonder later on, why is that, our transformation is not going right? Because we may be focused on innovation, you may be focused on technology, you may be focused on new market advances. But if you're missing any one of these building blocks, your initiative will falter. So keep this in mind, very important foundational concept here on the steps necessary for transforming intentionally and effectively for value creation. Now, if I ask you, okay, this is important, I need to understand the structure, I need to have a mental model of the key components that I must address on my transformation. That's one level. The next level that I'll ask you is that, what do you think that once you have the model in your mind and you're fulfilling the requirements in each one of those stages, what do you think are the differentiators for real successful transformations? Do you think it's about ideas? Do you think it's about methods? Do you think it's about technologies, or do you think it's about people? When I ask this question, there's varied responses, right? Some people will say, oh, we need more ideas. Oh, no, we need to be more disciplined in methods. Oh, we need the exponential technologies. We were talking about enterprise architecture here. So we need that. We need intelligent automation, RPA. We need natural language processing. We need multi-cloud environments. We need all these great exponential technologies. Okay. Oh no, and some will say, no, it's people. We need to engage the right people. We need to develop people in our organization to be along this journey. And all of those answers are right, and all of them are wrong. The world of greatness is not an or world. The world of greatness is an and world, but it's filled with contradictions. And this is something that's very important to keep in mind, because I'll say that if you look at the successful, great enduring organizations of our time, by all means, they value ideas. Ideas are very important. They have mechanisms to collect ideas and know what the new ideas are. So they have ways of creating new ideas. But at the same time, they know that ideas are everywhere. And what are uncommon are people in the organization who are willing to put their reputation behind ideas. And then, they'll talk about methods. They will discuss the importance of a disciplined approach for identifying, prioritizing, and executing projects that create value for the organization. And that is absolutely true. But they also know that methods alone, they do not transform businesses. People do. I often tell that I've been a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt for over 25 years. But for most people, it sounds like a dangerous mental condition. It doesn't help them to create the most value in the shortest time and simplest means. It's often jargon. It's often a discipline framework that seems to be overdone. And remember, you do not want to create method experts. You want to create collaborative leaders and innovation execution leaders who deploy the methods that will create the most value in the shortest time and simplest means. But the ultimate goal is value creation and collaborative leadership and engagement, not the method itself. So some will say, oh, it's about technologies then, right, José? You already exemplify so many of these exponential technologies that are changing the world. We're going to have conferences on RPA and process mining and enterprise architecture. Technology is wonderful, when it's enabling our processes that create value for our customers to be faster, cheaper, safer, wonderful. But also remember, the technologies can make stupid happen at the speed of light. The right technology is great, the wrong technology is a disaster. And it's hard often to differentiate what are the right technologies and the bad technology, the wrong technologies for our organization a certain period of time. It depends on the maturity of the organization, the processes, the customers, the technologies themselves. So it must be about people then. So people are most important assets. So people is what, the most important factor in this transformation. Well, remember, we're taking an empirical approach here. And I've seen plenty of organizations that say that the people are their most important asset, and the people are the first asset that they let go. So I am not looking for theoretical answers. I'm looking at the empirical data and observations and what they reflect. And what they reflect is not that all people are our most important asset. I would say that all people must be respected, and the organizations, they attempt to be respectful of all people. But the reality is that there is a group of people who are critically important for your transformation. And I'll call them the right people. And I'll call them the amplifiers of your culture. And these people, they are effective collaborative leaders and innovation execution leaders. They're aligned with the purpose of the organization, that display the core values of the organization with the work that they do, and they are experts on collaborative leadership and innovation execution for value creation. So these are special people. These are the amplifiers of value creation, of innovation, of collaboration in your organization. And finding these people in the organization is a bit counterintuitive, and I'll get a little bit on that later on in this presentation. Now, so as you have heard, the world of greatness is very confusing, because I'm talking about these concepts that seem to be pulling very different directions. I say that ideas, methods, technology, and people are very important, and at the same time, they don't matter. It's not a balance, it is a blend of these components that allows great enduring organizations to flourish. Now, remember this blend is not a balance, number one. And number two is that it's the mastery of these contradictions that is fundamentally the key aspect of great enduring organizations. Great enduring organizations do not choose between A or B. They often find the intelligent blend of A and B. The world of greatness is an and world, not an or world. I mean, professionals and most organizations tend to look at things in a very absolute terms. It's either this or that, and they make decisions based on that. And often they miss the opportunity to be great by creating this intelligent blending. And there is no greater contradiction in these high-performing organizations than the contradictions of excellence and innovation. Because the world of excellence pulls in one direction. It pulls you towards setting high performance standards and meeting and exceeding those performance standards consistently. Well, that sounds like really good. I want to do that. And by all means, you should do that. And you're probably going to be pretty good by doing that. But if you only do that, you eventually become obsolete. In the other side, you have the world of innovation. The world of innovation is about taking different perspectives of problems and coming up with new ways of doing things, new ways that are not only 5 or 10% better, maybe 5 or 10-fold better than it used to be. It's about creativity and innovation that creates disproportional value. Often involves some level of technology, even though it's not required. So if you do that, you probably can be pretty good. But the reality, if you want to be great, doing just that is not enough. Because in the world of innovation also, if you fall in love with innovation and technology for its own sake, you will continuously go back and forth on technology and innovation. And if you do not have a clear purpose that you evolve onto, that you are able to scale that innovation that you created, you're going to die over time. And that's honestly what happens to most of the most innovative organizations. They die a slow death over time. The same is true for the organizations that are just operationally excellent or excellent the business they have right now. Great enduring organizations, they blend excellence and innovation, even though they're opposing forces. So by all means, if you're in the horse business, you want to use excellence to squeeze efficiencies out of your horses, and that's fine. But in the world of innovation, you're going to look at it and say, hey, listen, I don't get to design cars by squeezing efficiencies out of horses. So what organizations do, they think it's a choice. They either have to be in the horse business or the car business. And that's where they sign up for mediocrity. Great enduring organizations, they're able to blend excellence and innovation. They understand that you must set high performance standards and meet or exceed those performance standards and develop the discipline necessary for doing that. But at the same time, you need to have the discipline to back away from what you have created and say, there's got to be a better way. And when you come up with the better way, when you come up with the car, if you will, you don't fall in love with the car. You fall in love with your purpose, and you continue to scale the innovation that you created that's aligned with your purpose. And that is the ultimate definition of discipline. Discipline is consistency with your purpose. Great enduring organizations are highly disciplined organizations. They have excellence in place. They create new innovations. And what makes them the greatest is not because they are the most innovative. What makes them the greatest is that they are able to scale the innovation they create better than anybody else. And you know how they scale innovation? They scale innovation by applying excellence to the innovation they created, applying excellence to that innovation to scale it consistently with their purpose. These concepts are fundamental for great enduring organizations, and that's why I like to take time to discuss them with you. Very quickly, I want to go to a bit more advanced levels now on what these great enduring organizations do. And I want to draw from not from my experience as an advisor for Fortune 50 organizations and startups. What I'm going to draw on is actually my real experience as a leader of excellence and innovation for well-known, successful organizations for the period of time that I'm covering here with them. I started my career with Sony. I'll go very brief on this. As a designer, giant Japanese industrial company, which was at that time at the leading edge of innovation. So I'll share a couple of lessons from each one of those organizations. In my first week working at Sony, my boss asked me to identify 100 innovations in the system. I thought I was going to get fired. There's no way I can come up with 100 innovations here. At the end of the week, I came up with a few innovations. I created a report that had a lot of fluff to look like I had 100. And then my boss looks at me and says that, that was okay, but next week you need to come up with 200 innovations. And I thought I was going to get fired. I thought I was a terrible failure. So lessons from Sony on innovation specifically. Great innovators and innovation itself doesn't care about gender, race, ethnicity, or how many certificates you have hanging on the I love myself wall. When it comes to great innovation and great innovators, they are only revealed by the test of innovation execution. And it requires for you to have great innovations, it requires you to have a paradoxical mindset. You must have the mindset of a novice coupled with the mindset of the expert. In the mindset of an expert, there's only one way. The mindset of a novice, there are many ways. Great innovations come from the intelligent blending of the mindset of the novice with the mindset of the expert. Because the mindset of the novice will give you new perspectives that will create value. That's why my boss, Hayashi-san, was asking me to identify that many innovations in my first week at work. I had the mindset of the novice, but that's not enough, because to scale those innovations, I need to develop some expertise and the mindset of the expert to scale that. So the test of innovation execution will reveal the true innovators in your organization. Lesson 1. Lesson 2, you find that the best innovators, they have a blend of the mindset of the novice with the mindset of the expert. So after my journey at Sony, I joined a company that changed the world in the semiconductor industry. Cymer ASML developed laser technologies that to this day are used to advance Moore's law in the semiconductor industry. This was a startup in San Diego, California that changed the world because in the mid 1990s, Moore's law had come to a screeching halt. We were like, we cannot make semiconductor chips any smaller than we have than we're making right now. So we thought we were at the end, and there comes a new company with a new technology that was not even, that had no background in the semiconductor industry. Their technology was developed for military uses, and then they repurposed their technology and became a disruptive business model in the semiconductor industry. Now, what is the lesson from that company? The lesson from that company is that we had the greatest, smartest scientists from all over the world in one building in San Diego, California. And for quite some time, we couldn't get anywhere. The reason for that, because just having the smartest people in the room is not a success guarantee if they're not able to collaborate effectively towards a common purpose. Remember this. Great enduring organizations have widely developed collaborative leadership skills. Collaborative leadership requires us to surround ourselves with people with different perspectives who are willing to voice their disagreement without fear of retaliation. This is the biggest lesson that we have from a company that needed to scale and become dominant in their field. If you must have collaborative leadership as a core competence in your organization. And this is very poorly understood. Academia doesn't understand it. Research is very sporadic because you cannot learn these things by asking on survey questions how you do this. And the methods and techniques have been only developed by a few companies internally, and they keep this very close to their vest because it's a true competitive advantage. But the essence of collaborative leadership and the mechanisms and techniques for collaborative leadership are critical. And that at the simplest level, you gotta get smart people to collaborate effectively towards and efficiently towards a common purpose. When I joined Nestle, it was a very big shift from a small company that changed the world to a very big company with 350,000 employees around the world. They were trying to survive after 100+ years and thrive in a new economy. They wanted to accelerate innovation. And the lesson learned there is that when you're working on an organization that is so large with so many layers of culture at the corporate level, at the geographic level, we had 585 business units pretty much in every country of the world. So you have layers and layers and layers of culture. And what we learned is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. We've heard that one before. But your initiative and excellence in innovation specifically is just a side dish in the jaws of culture. You'll get chewed up and spit out if it's not aligned with culture. So the lesson here is that whatever you are, small company, very large company, culture is local, and you must have empathy for the culture before you have the audacity to try to change it. So please understand the history, please understand the feelings and the reasons why the current culture evolved to be what it is before you attempt to change it. Meet people where they're at and then bring them along the journey. But do not try to leapfrog them. Do not try to just bring them to the 21st century in one fell swoop and alienate them and their culture, because you're going to lose. Be empathetic to culture. At Black & Veatch, we had a challenge, an organization that's over 100 years old with more than 12,000 highly capable engineers doing these incredibly complex infrastructure projects around the world, more than 127 different countries. And after 100 years, the company wants to reinvent itself. How do you do that? How do you become more innovative if what you have done for about 100 years has been pretty good? You are still viable, you're still a good, profitable business, so why change? So what we share here with you are actually the results, because I think it's important that we don't talk just about the concepts. We show how these results are implemented to create value. So for about 6 years, at Black & Veatch, we had a world-class Lean Six Sigma program. Focus on ideas, focus on the methods of Lean and Six Sigma, creating value with that, which was good. We focus on the high performers in the organization to be the leaders, you know, yellow belts, green belts, black belts, master black belts, the whole structure. I was overseeing the program, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. It was world-class, one of the best programs. And then when we got to year 6, we're celebrating. You know why? Because 50% of those programs die within 3 years of their launch, and 99% of those programs die within 5 years of their launch. That's insane. We made to year 6. We're delivering value, having people engaged, so everything should be good, right? We're part of the 1% club. No, we're not satisfied with that. At that point, I had built enough credibility with my executive team to be courageous and propose a significant shift. And what I propose, and that's the lesson I want to share with you, is that, you know, ideas are important, as I mentioned before, but they're not most important. Methods are important, and I love Lean and Six Sigma and Agile and Scrum and all these amazing methods that allow us to execute with discipline. Wonderful, but they're not most important. What most important, technology is not most important. What's most important is the people, is the right people. So let's have the courage to find the right people in our organizations. My CEO thought I was losing my mind. Have a successful program, why would I change it? Because I said, because I don't know who the best people are. Right now, HR and senior leaders are telling me that these are our best people. I want to create a true meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms that anybody in this organization can access. A true democratization of excellence and innovation for value creation. Boss said to me, okay, you do it, but if it blows up, you know, you got to go back to just selecting the right people. Well, we democratize it. We open to everybody. We allow everybody to be trained on collaborative leadership and innovation execution. And we made it volunteer. Nobody was forced to do anything. And what we saw was a true revolution. What we saw is that skepticism in the beginning kept growing towards seeing the behaviors and belief, and that focus on the right people increased value creation 800% by year 10, and over 1,000% in voluntary engagement around the world, with multiple global awards for excellence and innovation, for value creation, for leaders and leadership development, competing against great enduring organizations all over the world. Now, they achieved this by creating a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms, focus on collaborative leadership skills and innovation execution skills. And I want you to remember this, and I'm showing you these lessons in this context because this is not some theoretical exercise. This is a multi-million-dollar exercise over time, multi-billion-dollar exercise, and a real experiment in organizations. Now, what we did here is that we scaled this. We started doing this with multiple organizations across business models, across different industries, across different geographies. And what we saw is that the fundamental principles were the same, and they worked the same. So I'm going to show you one more example, and then I'm going to wrap up. So when I was at Black & Veatch, I thought, wow, this is amazing. Not only we have transformed Black & Veatch over a 12-year period. Remember this. This is not a one-year transformation. The actual transformation, exponential transformation, happened in about 18 months to 3 years after year 6. Okay, so so this was chronically consistent with our purpose, transforming towards that purpose of value creation, collaborative leadership, and innovation execution as the guiding principles for that. Now, we did this across hundreds of organizations, and then I was hired by Endeavor Corporation, an energy organization in San Antonio, Texas, one of the top oil and gas companies in the world. And this company wanted to go for extraordinary. That was like my last assignment, if you will, as a corporate leader. It's like, this is a huge mountain to climb. Here's why it's a huge mountain to climb. Because this company in 2010, after the 2008 financial crisis. This company was on the edge of bankruptcy. It had a $2 billion market value, which was less than the book value of the company at the time. So the economics did not look very good. And then you look at the company itself, and there's nothing special in 2010 about this company as you look from the outside in, because the company is an oil and gas company. There's a whole bunch of oil and gas company with a market value of $2 billion. In the oil and gas industry, $2 billion valuation is like noise. You're very, very, very small, insignificant. There is nothing in terms of proprietary technology here. You're talking about a company that that processes oil and gas products. You know, they do the logistics, the refining, and the distribution of oil and gas products. Nothing special about that. Most of those processes have been the same from a technological standpoint for 6 years or more. So there was no, what is the special sauce? Well, there's none. No wonder we're on the edge of bankruptcy here. So what happened is that we had a new CEO that came in, and the CEO came into the organization and had a very clear vision of what he wanted for this organization. And understanding very well where the organization was and what he wanted to be, he talked, at least as I interpreted, and in the organization, he emphasized the importance of excellence, operational excellence, and business excellence, and also the importance of entrepreneurship, having that entrepreneurial energy and execution capability. So how can you get a big business to act more entrepreneurial, a big traditional business to act more entrepreneurial? So this, when you first talk about this in the scenario in 2010, it seems like an impossible mission. How are you going to do this? I mean, it's an old company with old technology and a lot of experienced people on how to do things the old way. I mean, does it really create value to have a culture of excellence and entrepreneurship in an environment like that? So there was a clear vision, a clear purpose. There was work done to foster a strong set of core values that supported that purpose. Those strong set of core values and beliefs were further supported by moods and feelings that make people feel excited about our purpose, that make people feel excited about our values. But that's not enough. Then we had to develop the mindsets associated with that purpose, the mindsets of being more entrepreneurial, being more collaborative, being more innovative, being more accountable for what we do. So we developed those mindsets, and then those mindsets are not enough. We need to understand what are the principles that we need to have, the real practitioner principles behind those mindsets, develop those mindsets. But that's not enough. We had to develop the mechanisms to translate the mindsets into action, and the mechanism that translate those mindsets into action, make them available to all in the organization. So those actions now are value creation actions. And I ask you now at this point in the presentation to think back about the Jenga. And I have just described to you every one of those components that the CEO and the leadership team in this company carefully addressed. And if by now you don't remember what those components are, if you're watching the recording, go back and look at the components, and you're going to see that they address every one of those components intentionally to build a culture of excellence and innovation that creates value. So with that, what did we experience in this organization? What we saw is that we develop a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms. A meritocracy of ideas, meaning that ideas could come from anywhere in the organization. Ideas came from the top down. Ideas came from the bottom up. Ideas came from the middle. And we created an environment where great people and great ideas could connect. And it is this connection of great people and great ideas that builds better ideas. But that's not enough. We also created a clear execution mechanisms for identifying, prioritizing, and executing the ideas that create the most value in the shortest time and simplest means. It's critically important. we made those execution mechanisms available to anyone in the organization without any concern for ranking or position in the organization. We taught professionals and leaders that ideas are everywhere. Great ideas must be nurtured and developed until they are ready to be executed. There is no such thing as a bad idea, but most ideas are just not ready yet. They have not yet been aligned with the strategies of the organization, with the sponsorship in the organization, with the priorities of the organization, and they have not been aligned with only two critically important things, either strategy execution or value creation. So we only do ideas that drive greater strategy execution and or value creation aligned with a governance that aligns with the strategies of the organization and the leadership priorities for the organization, and then, of course, value creation. Now, we also offer widely in the organization collaborative leadership development. Again, I want to emphasize to you the importance of collaborative leadership development. Collaborative leadership is your ability to surround yourself with people with diverse perspectives who are willing to espouse their different perspectives without fear of retaliation. This is an environment with great respect, okay? Great integrity, great respect, but we disagree on things respectfully. We provide different perspectives to build better solutions. This collaborative leadership is critical because what we have found is that teaching people just the methods is not enough. The best leaders of excellence and innovation for value creation are not the technical leaders on Lean, Six Sigma, Agile, and any other methodology. They are the collaborative leaders who are able to guide these teams towards a common purpose that creates the most value in the shortest time and simplest means. Now, the results of that transformation is that 8 years later, we were systematically, on an annual basis, identifying, prioritizing, and executing to full implementation, deriving value from more than 2,000 innovation projects on an annual basis, which were financially validated for over $1 billion in additional earnings, EBITDA, for the company. And this is the result of a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms, collaborative leadership development, and all of those components in the Jenga that I showed to you early on being intentionally fulfilled. This organization, 8 years later, was valued at $35 billion. So how do you go from $2 billion to $35 billion without a specific competitive advantage? You build a culture of excellence and innovation for value creation, a culture that's built on collaborative leadership skills and innovation execution skills. Remember the lessons from Sony. The test of execution will reveal the real innovators in your organization. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you, to share this presentation here on the journey and the evidence of successful transformations for value creation. Culture, business, and digital transformations that are done right are incredibly hard. You have to be highly consistent with your purpose, which is the ultimate definition of discipline, but they are very rewarding, not only for what you achieve, but for what you become as a professional and as a leader as part of this transformation. So I'm going to wrap up by thanking everyone for being here with us for this 3 days. Let me change hats back to our conference chairmanship. I want to thank everyone for being here with us, for being such gracious participants. The level of knowledge and expertise that we have in this conference is incredible, not only from the leaders who are presenting, but from the highly qualified audience who is watching, engaging, participating, and that's you. You have been fantastic in engagement throughout. What we are here are building an environment where great people and great ideas can connect. That is an essential component of successful transformations. And you, as a participant, as an engaged participant, is critically important for that environment, and your contributions are very much appreciated. Not only here, the questions you ask, the comments that you put on LinkedIn under our conference, the thank you to the sponsors, to the speakers who are providing their most important asset to us, which is their time and their expertise. We appreciate all of that, and we want to say thank you so much for that. Now, last thank yous will go to Brian Raffel, who is the conference director, who makes sure this all works for us. Incredible number of moving parts to make sure the sessions all work seamlessly. Thank you, Brian, for your leadership. Vijay Bajaj, who is the CEO of Proqis Digital and the Business Transformation Operational Excellence World Summits. His vision and his leadership allowed this to happen before the pandemic, during the pandemic, after the pandemic, for the next future pandemic. That is discipline. That is consistency with purpose. And Vijay has shown his leadership on that. And of course, our sponsors, LeanIX and Axilians, thank you so much for allowing everyone to access this level of information and qualified speakers on a global basis. We are focused on Europe for this conference, but we have seen speakers from all over the world and participants from all over the world who have engaged with us throughout. Our next conference will be focusing on process mining Europe, and that will be November 16th through 18th. So make sure you sign up for that so that you're registered and you can get all the benefits of participating in the conference as a registered participant. And whatever you are in the world, thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure to share this with you. And whatever you are, have a good rest of your day and have a good rest of your week. Thank you for now, and I'll see you soon.